11 symptoms of a bad fuel injector, how to diagnose it, and when cleaning can actually help. Your engine starts acting strange. The idle gets rough. The acceleration feels weak. Fuel economy drops, and sometimes you even smell gasoline. At first, these problems may seem unrelated, but in many cases, they all point back to one important part: the fuel injector. Fuel injectors are responsible for delivering fuel to the engine at the right time, in the right amount, and in the right spray pattern. When one injector gets dirty, clogged, stuck, or electrically faulty, your engine may no longer get the fuel it needs the way it needs it. And that can create a long list of frustrating symptoms. Some are mild at first. Others can quickly turn into poor performance, hard starting, misfires, and wasted fuel. In this video, I'll show you 11 common symptoms of a bad fuel injector. Then we'll go over how to diagnose the problem, when cleaning may help, and when cleaning probably will not be enough, and stay until the end, because one of the last symptoms on this list is often ignored at first, even though it can lead to a much more expensive repair later. So before you replace random parts, let's go step by step. First, what does a fuel injector actually do? A fuel injector sprays fuel into the engine in a precise pattern. That spray has to be timed correctly. It also has to deliver the right amount of fuel. If the injector is dirty, partially clogged, stuck open, stuck closed, or has an electrical problem, the air-fuel mixture can go wrong. And once that happens, the engine will not run the way it should. That is why injector problems can look like many different engine problems. Now let's get into the symptoms. Symptom number 1, rough idle. This is one of the most common signs. If one or more injectors are not delivering fuel evenly, the engine may struggle to maintain a smooth idle. Instead of idling steadily, the engine may feel shaky, uneven, or unstable. Sometimes the RPM dips lower than normal. Sometimes it feels like the engine wants to stall. This happens because one cylinder may not be getting the same fuel delivery as the others. And when combustion becomes uneven, idle quality usually suffers first. If your car feels rough, mostly at idle, especially when stopped at a light, a bad or dirty injector is one thing worth considering. Symptom number 2, engine misfire. A fuel injector that is clogged or not working correctly can cause a cylinder to misfire. That means the fuel in that cylinder is not burning properly or not burning at all. When that happens, you may feel a jerk, a stumble, a shudder, or a hesitation from the engine. Sometimes the misfire is mild. Other times, it is strong enough to make the whole car shake. Misfires are especially important because they should never be ignored for too long. If unburned fuel reaches the exhaust system, it can eventually damage the catalytic converter. So if your engine is misfiring, a bad injector is absolutely one possible cause. Symptom number 3, weak acceleration or hesitation when you press the gas pedal. Your engine needs the right amount of fuel when you ask for more power. If one injector is restricted or not responding properly, the engine may hesitate instead of accelerating smoothly. You press the gas pedal, but the car feels lazy, or there is a short pause before the engine responds. Sometimes the power loss is mild. Sometimes it becomes obvious during uphill driving, merging, or overtaking. This symptom can also happen with ignition, airflow, or fuel pressure issues, but fuel injectors are definitely on the list, especially if the hesitation comes with rough running or misfire symptoms. Symptom number 4, check engine light. A bad fuel injector can absolutely turn on the check engine light. Modern vehicles monitor injector circuits, combustion quality, misfires, and fuel mixture. If the computer sees something outside the expected range, it may set a trouble code. In injector-related cases, that can include injector circuit faults, misfire codes, or fuel mixture-related codes. That is why scanning the car is one of the smartest first steps. The warning light alone does not tell you the exact failed part, but it does tell you that the system has detected a problem. And if injector trouble is causing misfires or poor fuel control, the scan tool may point you in the right direction. Symptom number 5, poor fuel economy. If the injector spray pattern is bad, or an injector is leaking or stuck open, the engine may use more fuel than necessary. That means more trips to the gas station without any improvement in performance. Sometimes the drop in fuel economy is gradual. At first, you may only notice that mileage is slightly worse than before. Then, over time, it becomes much more obvious. This happens because the air-fuel mixture is no longer being controlled efficiently. And when that balance is off, fuel consumption often goes up. So if your mileage suddenly drops along with rough, idle, misfire, or hesitation, a bad injector becomes much more likely. Symptom number 6. Fuel smell around the car. If you smell gasoline, do not ignore it. A bad injector can sometimes leak fuel or allow too much fuel into the engine. That can create a noticeable fuel smell around the engine bay, near the fuel rail, or even from the exhaust. Sometimes the leak is from the injector body. Other times, it is the injector seal or O-ring. And in some cases, the injector may be stuck open, allowing too much fuel to pass through. Any fuel smell should be taken seriously because it can become a safety hazard. It also means the engine may not be controlling fuel properly. So if you smell gas and the engine is also running rough, the injector system deserves immediate attention. Symptom number 7, visible fuel leak. This is a more obvious version of the last symptom. If an injector cracks or an injector seal fails, you may actually see fuel around the injector area. You might notice wetness, staining, or fresh fuel near the rail or injector base. This is not something to delay. A visible fuel leak is both a drivability problem and a fire risk. In this situation, the question is usually not whether the injector system has a problem. The question is how quickly you can inspect and fix it safely. So if you ever see fuel around the injector area, stop guessing and deal with it immediately. Symptom number 8, hard starting or extended cranking. A dirty or leaking injector can make your engine harder to start. If one injector is not delivering enough fuel, the engine may crank longer than usual before it finally starts. On the other hand, if an injector is leaking or stuck open, it may flood the cylinder or upset the fuel mixture after shutdown. That can also make starting difficult. This is one of those symptoms that people sometimes blame on the battery first. And yes, battery, fuel pump, and ignition problems can also cause hard starting, but injectors belong on that list too, especially if hard starting happens along with rough, idle, or strong fuel odor. Symptom number 9, engine vibration, surging, or unstable RPM. If fuel delivery becomes uneven, the engine may no longer run smoothly under load. That can show up as engine vibration, small surges, fluctuating RPM, or a feeling that the engine is not settling down properly. Instead of smooth power delivery, the engine may feel inconsistent. One moment it feels okay, the next moment it feels slightly off again. This can happen when one injector sprays too little, too much, or sprays poorly. And because the ECU keeps trying to adjust, the engine may feel unstable rather than simply weak. So if the RPM needle does not seem steady, or the engine feels strangely uneven, injector trouble is one possible reason. Symptom number 10, black smoke from the exhaust. If an injector is leaking or stuck open, the engine may run too rich. That means too much fuel is entering combustion. When that happens, you may see dark or black smoke coming from the tailpipe. Black smoke is not normal. It usually means the engine is burning too much fuel, and that can hurt performance, fuel economy, and emissions. This is one of the stronger warning signs that fuel control has gone too far out of range. So if you see black smoke and also notice fuel smell, rough running, or poor mileage, a leaking injector should be high on your suspect list. Symptom number 11, failed emissions test, or catalytic converter risk. And finally, one of the most ignored long-term consequences. A bad injector can increase emissions. If the fuel burn is uneven, incomplete, or excessively rich, your vehicle may fail an emissions test. And if the problem continues for too long, unburned fuel can also damage the catalytic converter. That is why a bad injector is not just a small fuel system problem. If ignored, it can lead to a much more expensive exhaust repair later. So even if the car still drives, do not assume the problem is harmless. Now let's talk about diagnosis. How do you tell if the injectors are really the problem? Start with the symptoms, but do not stop there. The first smart step is to scan the car for trouble codes. Look for misfire codes, fuel trim-related clues, or injector circuit codes. After that, pay attention to the pattern. Ask yourself, does the engine idle rough? Is there a fuel smell? Is one cylinder misfiring? Did fuel economy suddenly drop? Does the engine hesitate under load? Next, inspect for leaks. Look around the injectors, fuel rail, and seals. If you see or smell fuel, do not ignore it. After that, electrical testing may be needed. A technician may check injector resistance, pulse signal, or injector balance, depending on the vehicle and tools available. This matters because not every injector problem is a clog. Some are electrical, some are mechanical, and some are seal-related. Now let's talk about cleaning. Can you clean a bad fuel injector? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. If the injectors are dirty or partially clogged, a compatible fuel injector cleaner may help in some cases. More stubborn cases may need professional on-car cleaning with proper equipment or off-car cleaning and flow testing. But if the injector is cracked, electrically faulty, stuck open, or badly damaged, cleaning usually will not solve the real problem. That is the important difference. Cleaning can help dirt-related flow problems. It cannot fix every injector failure. And there is one more thing to be careful about. Trying to remove and clean injectors at home is not always beginner-friendly. It involves fuel pressure, proper tools, safe handling, and leak checks afterward. If done incorrectly, it can create safety risks or new drivability problems. So if you are not confident, professional diagnosis is the safer choice. To help prevent injector problems over time, use good quality fuel when possible, replace the fuel filter on vehicles that have a serviceable one, avoid ignoring misfires, and do not keep driving when strong injector-related symptoms start getting worse. So let's quickly recap. Common symptoms of a bad fuel injector include rough idle, engine misfire, weak acceleration, a check engine light, poor fuel economy, fuel smell, visible fuel leaks, hard starting, vibration or unstable RPM, black smoke from the exhaust, and failed emissions or catalytic converter risk. Some of these start small, some feel serious right away, and some seem minor at first, but can turn into a much more expensive repair later. That is why injector symptoms should never be ignored for too long. Because if the engine is not getting fuel correctly, everything else starts to suffer. And now I want to hear from you. What symptom did your car show first? Was it rough idle, poor mileage, fuel smell, misfire, hard starting, or a check engine light? Comment below with the exact symptom you noticed first. And if enough people mention the same issue, I'll make the next video on that exact problem.